All right, here we are for episode 35 of Dad's and Ed. We are back for our third season, our second full season. It is fabulous to be with you all. We are already having all sorts of chaos. We didn't tell Brent, but my computer just randomly restarted the page at one point earlier tonight. So we are starting off season 3 on a great note. It's going to be awesome. My name is Josh Allen, one of your humble hosts, tech integration specialist in Council Bluffs, just across the river from Omaha. Hopefully that suffices the people who don't like it when I forget to mention Council Bluffs.
There's only one that I know.
Now that it's summer, your school year started, I now have 2 kids in school. I have a second grader and a kindergartner. It's hard to believe. And a 2-year-old. Excited to be here. And a beautiful wife. Devin, would your introducer like to do her job?
Okay. So, I have a dad. I have a mom. I have a sister that is just as annoying as Whitebird. I am so joking about that. And I have my friend named Zoe.
And to fill in the parts that my lovely assistant did not do.
No, you're a K-12 instructional technology coach. Did I say it right?
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, pretty close. K-12 instructional technology coach, whatever. The title doesn't really matter. In Council Bluffs Public Schools in Council Bluffs, Iowa, right by where Josh is working as well. My lovely wife is out on a run. My 2 children are 9 and 11. One going into middle school, so that's the big news around here. We've got a middle schooler starting next Monday when school starts. So that's us.
Okay. That's how life is.
Okay.
Well done as always. Brent.
I'm on those sound effects. Hey everybody, it's Brent Catlett here, Kansas City, Missouri, Independent School District, Director of Technology, dad of 5 children. I'm going to pan over to the littlest fella if I can get him on there. There he is. Sullivan. Not that you could see that on a podcast, but if you're watching live, you might be able to see that, or later on the recorded version. But I got 5 little ones. Hard for me to remember all their ages. Somewhere in between 9 and 6 months. And my daughter started kindergarten this year. That was a big deal for me as a dad. So I might get into that a little bit later for my dad's moment of the week. But I'll hold off. That's just a little teaser for you guys.
Can you remember all their names, Brent? The ages might be hard. Got all the names down by now, though?
Well, and I may mention that I happen to have a cousin and a wife who are moving to Kansas City from California, and so we currently have 2 more children in the home as well. So we're at a top number of 7. So it's a little chaotic. So no, I don't, Devin. Often when I'm yelling at a kid, I call him the wrong name. Wait, I mean disciplining a kid, not yelling. Excuse me.
Oh, wonderful. Well, if you're interested in getting in touch with the show at any time, you can tweet at Dads and Ed. Use the hashtag Dads and Ed. That has been getting quite a bit of play. We'll give a couple shout outs here in a little bit. Google Plus, if that's still around, if that's still a thing, you can go to Plus Dads and Ed. And if you miss any of the show, or you think it's not bad enough that you can send it to your friends and they will still like you, feel free to check out dadsanded.podbean.com or search Dads and Ed and subscribe in iTunes. Obviously, we are just back from summer break. Devin and I have started working. We do not have kids at school yet, although my kids are back at school. So to do a little water cooler, of course, when you come back to work after summer break, what does everybody ask about? How was your summer? What'd you end up doing? So Brent, I'm pretty sure this is going to include Ozarks and a boat and golfing, but go ahead and tell us what's been up this summer.
Yeah, good assessment. The guy knows me because he follows me on Instagram and several other accounts. But yeah, no, I've had a great summer. It's been a lot of fun with the kids, getting them down to the lake. And just honestly, for me, I don't get the summers off anymore in the new gig, so I just get my vacation time. So I'll really cherish that time. But I'm lucky enough now, being closer to the lake here in Kansas City, that it's just a couple-hour drive, so we can sneak down on weekends and Yeah, I have enjoyed some golf down there. Not played as much golf as I would have liked, but as I mentioned, my daughter started kindergarten, and so she started that. They have a summer school program here in Independence, which was kind of cool to get her acquainted. In the midst of this summer, I found out I got accepted to a doctorate program at Baker, so I started that last Wednesday, actually. Have homework due this coming Wednesday already. So that's a big deal, and I'm excited about it, looking forward to that, and just kind of continuing on in the journey of life, right?
Nothing about what you said necessarily was appealing. I'm specifically focusing on working 12 months out of the year and doctorate.
Right. As you have constantly been sharing in some Voxer groups that I might be in about how you're not working until, are you even working yet? Is the question.
Yeah,
Oh,
I did.
good,
I did
good.
today.
Yeah.
I wore jeans, and I got chastised by my superintendent for being the only person who he saw less of this summer than this other lady that we like to make fun of in the office. So, yeah, I'm back though. Yep.
Nice.
They had lots of donuts today too, which was a great welcome back.
That's
I like donuts.
Ain't good on the waistline, but it's good.
No. Side note: I need to start running again. But anyway.
Well, that's
Devin.
better than me. I'm not on contract either. But what I've decided this summer is I would prefer. I think what I want to do is I want to work all year round, but I want to be able to work whenever I want. So I want to put in the same amount of time, but I want to be able to work 6 hours today and 2 hours tomorrow, and not work 6 weeks. Work 3 days from now. I think I could do that all year. So it's been a great summer for that. I was back at work today in shorts and flip flops. I'm going to try and push the envelope a little bit this year with that. I think I'm just going to wear that until somebody tells me I can't, which will probably be Thursday. But whatever. We had a good summer. We spent a few days down in Kansas City, down at Worlds of Fun and Oceans of Fun, and then we did a family vacation in Estes Park in Colorado for a week with my wife's family, her brothers, their families, and her mom and dad, which was awesome. Played some golf, went whitewater rafting. Some people did some horseback riding, did some hiking. So it was great. And then maybe one of the best things I did this summer is I went to the Leiden 1-to-1 symposium outside Chicago at Jason Markey's high school, and presented there for a few days. But I took Claire, who introduced me. I took Claire with me for the week. So my oldest daughter Grace was gone with a friend for vacation for the week, and I took Claire with me for the week so that Erin could be home and have all the time to herself. But Claire and I went and hung out in Chicago, and then she went with me to the Leiden event for 3 days. And then from there I went down to Burlington, Iowa on the Friday, the final day of that week, and did a little talk there before coming home. But I had a great week just hanging out with Claire. And hanging out in Chicago, and we went and had dinner with Jason and his daughter, played some mini golf, and then Claire and I spent one day in the city, did all kinds of walking and having fun. So we had a pretty good summer. It seemed like I was here for a week and then gone for a week, and then here for a week and then gone for a week, which took its toll. I was a little tired, not ready for school to start, but it was pretty great. Pretty awesome summer for us.
Nice. Well, I ended up being gone just for about a month. Away from the house. Went to ISTE in Philadelphia, which, if you've never been, if you're connected, it's great because you get to see those people face to face. But very overwhelming experience. And taught for a week. Was in Okoboji for a few days, and then, like Devin, got to take the kids out to Colorado for a while. So, fun fact though, you guys will appreciate this. My son, the sport that he has kind of latched onto this summer is golf.
Nice.
And which is great. I'm a horrible golfer, but it's kind of like running for me. I can run with a 7-year-old, and I don't embarrass myself yet. Now, I've only got a few more years of that happening, but I can go golf. He doesn't realize how horrible I actually am because I can at least outdrive him. But I did have to introduce him to what the word "for" means. I tried to play my slice and actually hit the ball straight, and it went right to the two guys who we were nice enough to let play through. He's like, "Why'd you say that?" because I about hit that old man over there. So yeah, he yesterday he was pretty bummed. We had some things we had to do around the house, and he wanted to go golfing because been a beautiful day. But so we're gonna milk that, get him out there. But
Well, I'll tell you as we get into maybe we'll talk about this a little bit, but you mentioned ISTE in that overwhelming kind of sense. How many people are there, and if you're connected, know people, it's different. I'm curious because I think we're going to get into this a little bit with Brent when he comes on, because he puts on a conference at his school in Indiana. What's your guys' preference at this point in time? Going to a conference like an ISTE or even a NETA, an iTech, something that's a little bigger, or do you prefer going to some of the smaller events, whether they be ed camps or kind of state, like the Leiden event that I know went to, the symposium, or went down to Bob Dylan's event in St. Louis for their one-to-one symposium. Do you guys have a preference on what kinds of events you go to now for conferences?
I would probably say I'm somewhat biased, also organizing an ed camp, but I am much more apt to go to a smaller event. One of the things about even like ISTE, it's so dang expensive. And I maybe went to 4 sessions, one of which was to kind of scope out a possible keynote speaker for NETA. I'm not, I don't know, I think we might have talked about this before. I'm not really a big city guy anyway. I'm not a big, I would much prefer, small town, small event. So, yeah, mine was definitely, there are some definite good things. I'd probably need to travel more and not just be here all the time anyway. So being in Philadelphia and some of the randomness that we saw, like a guy without his shirt and a bottle of vodka yelling, "Things are about to get interesting," which is a whole other story. That's a whole other segment that we could talk about. But I am much more apt to enjoy the smaller ones.
Yeah, I think you guys know this. I'd probably pick an ed camp any day of the week over conferences, just because I enjoy those conversations more so than sit and get style of learning. Not that doesn't have a place. I think certainly ISTE has its place, and other conferences. I love NETA. We've talked, and you guys give me a hard time about Miami Device. I thought that was a great learning event. I would love to go to Leiden sometime, or I know, Devin, you've hosted those sorts of events. I think those are great opportunities to learn. So I think for me, I think that's evolved. Say if I did attend ISTE, I didn't this summer, but I think going in there, being someone who's connected to other individuals, it would really be about reconnecting with those folks in person, and having those opportunities versus attending actual sessions. Not that I wouldn't, but I really enjoyed Ignite sessions, which I know has caught on, and NETA had them this last April. And so anyway, I think for me, I'm more of an ed camp guy. If I had to pick, that's probably what I would do. And roll with that.
And I think that it's changed a lot. Josh brought up the idea that being connected kind of changes that. I can think Josh Stuppenhorst and I were having a conversation not long ago about having never met prior to meeting at Bob's event this summer, and we were talking about how at ASCD 5 or 6 years ago, we remember tweeting in that session to each other, but not knowing each other. We didn't talk, we didn't meet, we didn't get together. And I think that is true. It's a completely different experience. I share that story a lot, or not that story, but the story a lot about going to conferences. And I was always the guy who would go to the conference and totally go through the 3 or 4 days and never necessarily have a real conversation with someone else, go back to my hotel room at night and do some stuff. And then now it's a completely different thing. I think if I go now, it's much more what Josh was talking about, or what you just said, Brent, reconnecting with people or meeting people that I kind of know on Twitter that I haven't met before in person. So, yeah, I'm just curious. And the other thing with that is there's so many of those small events now that the market is almost saturated with, the Google summits and the Chromebook summits and the symposiums, and so I'm wondering how it sustains all that, but really whether or not those smaller events are actually better for us for having the conversations like you're talking about, John, or like you're talking about, Brent.
Well, and speaking of Google Summit, we hosted one in Kansas City that I was kind of a part of in the group down here, helping plan and organize. And I ended up sending roughly, I think I ended up with about 70 teachers that myself and my curriculum director sponsored to go, which was outstanding, as well as then some came on their own accord or got their building to pay for it. But my point is that those teachers and where we are as a district right now, it was so needed. Like they needed to be at that event to kind of focus in and zero in on some Google stuff, and it had its place for them. So I think that variety is probably a good thing too, particularly for like the folks that we typically support in tech integration stuff.
Yeah. Hey, we have a guest.
We do have a guest. Of course, we have a guest. Internet Wi-Fi.
I was never sure if it actually is going to work or not, but he's there.
You know, hotel Wi-Fi. Why would you not think it would work?
I wasn't worried about the hotel
Wi-Fi. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get to our guest, this is, no offense, Brett, this is going to be way more important than you. Nate Balcom, friend of the show, big friend of the show. What emoji could we use for each of the Dads and Ed fellas? Now, I'm pretty sure Nate is in the Voxer group where I chastised the use of emojis yesterday. Use words. Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
I hate emojis.
I do too.
I have all the time I have for tonight, folks. I'm going to take my emoji lab and go somewhere else.
I'm glad that I could offend the guest before I actually invite him in.
Right, nice work.
I'm now just going to make emoji faces the rest of the night.
Well, you know what? At least our viewers will enjoy it. So
you have to enunciate them. Winky face, thumbs up.
I will point out, though, that most people listen to the audio version of this and not the video version, so I don't know that emojis are really going to transfer over, because I'm the one who makes the blog post that goes with it, and I won't use emojis in it. So
good work.
If you can get one of the other two to remember where the password is stored, maybe they'll do it for you.
I don't even know where you're talking about.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are excited to have Brett Clark in the house. Brett, welcome to Dads and Ed. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about your family, job. What are you doing right now in a hotel room?
I'm Brent Clark. I'm the Director of Technology for Greater Clark County Schools, which is in southern Indiana. I often say we're on the Indiana side of Louisville, Kentucky, so we're right across the Ohio River from Louisville. And I have been married for 15 years. My wife, Ruth, and I have 3 boys, Micah, Nathan, and Levi, 12, 10, and almost 7. And I am up here in Detroit doing some Google Apps for Education training at another school district.
Have your kids started back to school, Brett?
They went back to school July 30th. Our teachers reported back to work a month ago today, on July 24th.
Oh, you're not kidding? Is that true?
That's the absolute fact. Our teachers have been back to work for a month now, which is funny. That's why I've been like chastising, which is maybe not the best thing to do when you're a presenter. I've been chastising all the people that have been in my sessions throughout the day today, because they still have like 6 weeks before they go back to work here in Michigan. Sometime like the middle of October, I think, is when they start, and then they get out in March. It's Michigan, whatever. Where you're at. I don't get it.
That is crazy. No, that's a long time ago. So when do you guys get out? I mean, literally, do you guys get out in March?
No. Our last day with students this past year was June 10th, and June 11th was the last teacher work day. So they have June 11th to July 24th.
Wow.
But we get a 2-week fall break, a 2-week winter break, and a 2-week spring break.
So is it considered year-round?
We like the term balanced calendar because it sounds less wrist-slitting if you than saying year-round.
I see. I like that. Balanced calendar. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Nope.
So Brett, we have to start this, and this comes from a Voxer group that we're all part of, but knowing that all of the Seinfeld episodes are now on Hulu, are you still holding on to the truth that you have not watched an entire episode, or has that changed?
No, I still have not watched an entire episode. This summer when I was with Bob Dylan and Josh Horse. They forced me to watch part of a clip episode. It was either that or watch the Cardinals, so I took Seinfeld over the Cardinals. And so I watched part of a clip episode. I don't think we got through the whole thing because they wanted to watch. Well, the other thing I was on was soccer, so it was. I was going to lose either way. I was either going to have to watch soccer, Cardinals, baseball, or an episode of Seinfeld, and we watched part of all three things. And so I saw a clip episode. I don't know, maybe 2/3 of it, and so I feel like I've watched quite a bit of Seinfeld, and I'm satisfied.
Huh. Well, all right. I guess you're holding on. I like it. I like that you're holding out, and you're not going to do it. It's got to be a matter of principle at this point.
I'm a man of convictions.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
Speaking of things that you watch, we'll just roll right into other things that make your day. How are your White Sox doing this year? You're a huge White Sox fan, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a family thing.
It is. It is. My dad raised me a White Sox fan. My grandmother was born on the south side of Chicago and moved to Indiana somewhere around the Great Depression. And but they held on to rooting for the White Sox. I'm not really sure if there's a correlation between the Great Depression and being a White Sox fan, but maybe I just made a connection there. So yeah, it's definitely a family thing. My very first professional baseball game, I got to meet Sammy Sosa when he played for the White Sox at Old Comiskey Park, and we still call it Comiskey Park. I might call it the Cell every now and then, or affectionately I might call it Comiscular. Combination of U.S. Cellular and of course Comiskey. So, but yeah, they're awful, and I'm ready to see an overhaul at the top of the White Sox. Greg Hahn, Kenny Williams, Robin Ventura, they all need to go. Anybody not named Chris Sale traded, and
Samardzija.
That's it though. He's all on.
And that was not a T-ball question. Brent is in Kansas City. I did notice. I don't know if I think maybe it was pre-show. He did point out he had a Royals shirt on. So it is fun to have the discussions. We had a little Royal because Devin's a Giants fan, as you know, and we had a little back and forth with the World Series this year. Being an Indians fan, Brett, you and I can talk about who's going to be at the end of the AL Central, while Brent and his hoity friends are standing up there at the top.
Yeah, we can race to the bottom of the Central there. If we can talk about how I'm going bald and have high blood pressure, other things that are depressing in my life. Right now, I want to keep this vein of thought going here. So no, I mean the worst thing about the Royals is that is not only are they a really good baseball team, but they're probably one of my favorite teams just to hate right now. And they don't really. I don't know if anybody outside of the Royals actually Royals fans actually like them. There's nothing. They're probably. I mean, I don't know. How many fights have they got into this year? And
well, if Samardzija would stop throwing at us, we wouldn't have that problem.
He's not doing it on purpose. I have a theory that that Samardzija is just playing poorly, and like he pitches well enough to keep other teams interested, and poorly enough that the White Sox won't want to re-sign him. Yeah. That's my theory on that. And then with Chris Sale, I picture Chris Sale most nights getting text messages from Greg Maddux saying, "Hey man, I know how you feel. It'll be okay. Just wait a few years to go sign with the Braves. You'll be fine."
Brett, hey, I'm interested in learning a little bit more about the conference that you host in your area and how you got that started.
Yeah, sure. So actually, it was a month ago today we hosted our conference. It was our third annual conference, and here in the state of Indiana, the Department of Education, the e-learning division over here for the state, puts together a grant that allows districts all around the state to host these regional e-learning conferences. I think they had somewhere around 17 or so conferences this year, and the grants range, and depending upon how many days your conference is, and if you can get a higher level of grant dollars if you are collaborating with more than one district on hosting the conference. And so this year being our third year, there's a couple of things that were different about this year than the first two. First of all, we partnered with our neighboring school district, Clarksville Community Schools, and on putting together the conference and writing the grant for that. The other thing that was different this year is that our superintendent and our school board had been so impressed with the first 2 years of the conference that they wanted to make this year part of the teacher work calendar. And so they made it worked with the union and worked out part of the bargain for this year's calendar, that it was an actual paid work day for all 750 or so of our certified staff members. And so that was pretty exciting, but also nervous, because I knew going into it that we always had about a third of our teachers or so that would come to the conference the first 2 years. So you'd have a third of our teachers who wanted to be there anyway. You have a third probably that were like, okay, yeah, they're paying me, I'll be there. And then you had a third, or hopefully less, that was just going to be, grumpy because they had to come back. First of all, they had to come back on July 24th. And then second of all, in their mind, they're coming to a full day of district professional development, which is not typically the most pleasant thing for most teachers. So I was really pleased, though, with what we were able to put together, and we've gotten great feedback from our teachers. And so, it turned to be a real good success. And we had 700 plus of our own members from our district there, and another 150 or so from outside of our district that came to be part of the conference.
And you had a great lineup of folks presenting too. That helps as well.
Absolutely. I certainly would have to pull up the website to try to go through all the great folks. But Dean Shareski keynoted it and was the absolute right choice. Dean has such a great message that resonates with every teacher, every administrator, and it's a message that I knew that our teachers and leaders, all of our leaders, could get behind. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as we made the decision to make it part of the actual calendar for the year, my first thought was, okay, Dean's got to be the speaker, because he's going to connect with everybody. And if you don't like a Dean Shareski keynote, then you probably don't belong in education.
Yeah, something's wrong with you.
Right.
Did he do the joy one, Brett?
He did. He did.
Okay.
And then he and I did a hilarious version of the jumping for the jump picture afterwards. Where Dean's a professional at this. This was the first time I jumped since Cypress Hill concert back in '99. So it's been a while. Actually, no, excuse me, '97 when I saw Cypress Hill in concert. So yeah.
I may or may not have seen that on the Instagram.
Yeah. I was impressed with the number of people who actually had photo evidence of me and my feet separated from the ground. It was remarkable. I need a trampoline to pull that off next time. There you go.
We talk about kind of the power of connections and being online and technology and its kind of potential and power in education. But I want to do something a little more personal. I know you've been really open and forthcoming when sharing your wife's journey with her illness and kind of recovery. And can you talk a little bit about the impact of being connected and having folks out there? I would say friends. Sometimes in quotation marks, because some people might not consider people maybe that you've never met in person as friends, but that support and going through what you and your family have.
Yeah, so for people that listen know the story, back in November of last year, my wife started to get real sick and to not get into all the details of it, but it culminated with January 29th, her having life-saving surgery. I actually had been at EduCon just a few days prior, and my sister-in-law was at the house with her, and she's been in the hospital in December, and in January she's been kind of up and down health-wise, and I contemplated whether or not I should even go to EduCon, and my wife had told me, hey, no, Natalie's here, go, I'll be fine, we'll get through this. And, well, she wasn't fine, and flew back that Sunday, and really, I said it to say because the moment that they called me Sunday morning to say, hey, we're rushing your wife to the ER, I immediately found Chris Lehman, because I was supposed to present with Aaron Klein that afternoon. There at EduCon, I immediately found Chris, told him what was happening, and the dude just sprung into action. He grabbed 3 students there at SLA, and he told one of them, hey, you go find Brett's room, put a note on it, his session's going to be canceled. You go get Brett a cab, and you help him change his flight. And within 15 minutes, the session was that I was doing with Aaron Klein was canceled. I had a new flight that was leaving, that was getting me home about 2 or 3 hours earlier than my scheduled flight. And the time I got downstairs, there was a cab waiting outside for me. Mm-hmm. And just to show just like the kind of compassion that Chris has in me, and that I'm getting on a plane, flying back, and I think it was Monday night that Bill Farrader called me, and he had heard what had happened, and people who haven't had a chance to meet Bill Farrader, he is one of the most genuine people you will meet, and his caring and compassion. He's been a phenomenal friend to me prior to this event, and certainly since all this stuff. And so, Bill said, "Hey, look, you focus on your family. I'm gonna make sure that people know what's going on. You keep me informed, and I'll keep everybody else informed for you." And next thing I know, we were going through that surgery that Thursday to the tune of, like, when the doctor took out for surgery, he told me he could not put any kind of percentage on whether or not he thought my wife was going to survive the surgery. We've seen him obviously several times since then. Spoiler alert for those who know the story: she lives, so it's fine. She's doing much better now. So I was taking the spoiler alert out there. But anyway, it wasn't long after her surgery that next thing I know, I started getting cards in the mail. I hate to even try to start naming names, but people like Tom Murray, Tom Whitby, Amber Tiemann, messages from people in the Voxer group, letters from Bill Farrader. Just so that whole time that I'm going through all this stuff with my wife, and she spent 5 weeks in the hospital, 6 weeks in a nursing home, had to relearn how to stand, how to walk. They removed almost her entire colon, and that was the whole crux of what that had caused all of this infection in her body. Since her colon had more or less just died inside of her and was poisoning her body, and it actually she was took her 7 full days to wake up from the surgery. You're sitting there in a hospital for 7 days just waiting for your wife to wake up. You can't express. There's not words to describe what that's like, and just not knowing what it was going to be like. So anyway, to your question, being connected is one of the things that helped me get through all this stuff. I wrote a blog post about it. I think I saw one of y'all tweeted it out. People, as we got closer and closer to her, they're like there's these capstone events. When she got out of the ICU into a regular hospital room, when she transferred from the hospital to the nursing home, the first time on Easter Sunday when I got to take her to church again for the first time, having her one of her best friends was getting married, and my wife was a florist for several years, and she was supposed to be the wedding coordinator for this wedding, but we still got to go and be part of the wedding. It was the first time I ever got to check her out in the nursing home during all this stuff. And every time we had these big capsule events, people would always say, hey, so, how does it feel? You got to feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. And my response has always been that, well, I don't see it that way because my tunnel's been well lit this entire time between my church, my family, and friends, both personal friends, and I consider folks like you guys and people I've met through social media to be friends who like you're there for me during this time of my life, during the most difficult thing I've ever lived through. Like we're friends.
Yeah, see, and I think that's the side of it. I think that sometimes gets lost. We try and profess, to teachers and folks we work with all the time about using Twitter or using social media, and I think it's the personal side that sometimes we probably don't articulate enough. This idea that, and again, I use friends in quotes because I know plenty of people that I work with that if I were to say, boy, all these friends I have in this Voxer group, oh, how many have you met? Oh, like 4 of them. I mean, they wouldn't see that as people who you would consider friends or being supportive through good times and bad times. So I think that's a great story for that, and I think maybe we need to articulate that even more clearly to folks so that it is something that is seen as personal and not just professional, not just work.
I agree. I mean, I think that most of us do a really great job of celebrating each of those successes. Man, when we host a conference and when we have big events in our district, or maybe a successful rollout of a new one-to-one device, and we see a lot of promoting those successes. But there's because of some of these things that I know that each one of us go through these trials in our lives. You don't always necessarily feel like maybe it's the place to share that out for the whole world to see. But it's been so important to my wife and I and our kids, and just to see what people have done for us. I know my wife, just when she got home and would get to started going through things in our house, which was a disaster by the time she got home 11 weeks later. And she started going through, and we came across the box that I had all these cards in. We just sat there and just wept over them. And because these people that know me, and a couple of them have had an opportunity from my conference, had a chance to meet my wife. I know. Like Todd Whitby had met her last year when he was in town for our conference. We went out to dinner together. But it helped her to know that that we had people taking care of us when she couldn't.
That's awesome. I had a chance this summer, Brett, to read the book "What Great Connected Educators Do Differently" by Todd Whitaker, Jimmy Casas, and Jeff Zool. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. But it's a great read, and the thing I like that they did in that book, there's several things, but one of the things they talked about is the idea of the connected educator who, Jimmy talked about how there have been people that have stayed at his home, and that's an idea, that these connections are real and authentic, and I know I've certainly battled trying to get people connected and the why factor of why they should do that, and I don't think they necessarily see some of that power that, like you just shared in that story. So I'm glad, for the record, that she's okay and doing better, and it was a good ending.
Yeah. Me too. I tell this story just because it hits home for people, but one of those moments that, oh my God, it was just so heart-wrenching was my 6-year-old Levi climbed in my lap one night on our couch, and we had we had just watched Guardians of the Galaxy not too long before Ruth had gone to the hospital. He calls my lap one night, and this is after the surgery. This is after she woke up. We knew we were going to have a long recovery ahead of us, but we knew she was going to be okay. He comes to my lap one night, and he just looks at me and says, "Dad, I don't want to be like that little boy in Guardian of the Galaxy." and referring to Peter Quill losing his mother, the opening scene of it, you know, and you want to talk about something that hits you as a father, to know that your 6-year-old has had nights laying in bed wondering if he's going to be like Peter Quill and lose his mother in the hospital. So I reassured him. I said, well, Levi, 2 things. First of all, your mom's going to be fine. It's going to be a while, but she's going to be home with us, and it'll be before you know it. And second of all, you are not going to get abducted by aliens. He just looked at me and just smiled and laughed, you know, and thank God I thought of that response to help bring some comfort to him, because you don't know how. I mean, you don't know how you're going to respond to these things, and until you're in it.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, you mentioned, you know, part of your journey and part of that light of the tunnel is your faith, and you know, again, being connected, you know, we've learned that you're a pastor also. So it's very odd that tonight we actually have 2 directors of technology and 2 pastors. Devin and I are the lowly people that need to visit you all more often.
True. Yeah.
Talk about that smooth transition from, you know, a director of technology. Not really a transition because you're doing both, but how do you? Where's the certification for pastor and your director of technology?
So my official title in our church is chief of staff, and so the role that I fill at Greater Faith in New Albany is that all the department heads fall under me, and so I make sure that when they're hosting an event or just like their day-to-day operations, my goal is to help make sure that those are running as smooth as possible. So, you know, I'm helping them train their staff, helping make sure that they have systems in place that make sense. You know, like for example, we have a tent revival coming up September 11th, 12th, and 13th. And so I'm working with our hospitality team to make sure that we have greeters where they're going to be stationed at. You know, we're just going to be outside, so how's this going to be different than our normal weekly service? Our parking lot team, okay, usually parking lot team, you're greeting guests. We're going to be at somebody else's campus outside, so you're going to have to really more like park cars and really direct traffic. So this is going to be a little bit different for you guys. And ushers, you know, this is going to be different as far as just, you know, helping people know where, you know, help directing traffic when they get out of their cars and where to go. So that's the role that I currently fill in our church. And so where there is a connection is that's one of my giftings. What I call my giftings is professional development and training. And so I make, you know, that's something that I do a lot, and obviously my professional career as director of technology. And it's something that's I'm very fortunate to be part of a church that allows me to lend those giftings and help and make sure that all of our departments run smooth and that people are well trained, and that professional development is occurring so that we can have a real, very well done, something that brings honor to God through professionalism. And then I'm fortunate enough to get to preach, you know, maybe once a month or so. Here at the main campus, and we have a total of 3 campuses with our congregation. We have a fantastic app, live stream all of our services. It's a fantastic church, and I have a fantastic bishop that leads that congregation.
Very cool.
We have one thing we kind of try to chat about a lot on here when we have guests on, Brett, is this idea that you know, sometimes, you know, most of us probably were in education prior to having kids, and we talk a lot about how each kind of impacts the other. So how, you know, maybe having kids and being a dad has impacted us as educators, and maybe the other way too, how being an educator has kind of impacted us on being parents. So can you talk a little bit about maybe if that has if you have felt that, or kind of some of the changes you felt about teaching, for instance, once, or being an educator once you had kids?
Yeah, so my majority of my actual classroom experience is middle school. I taught in the classroom 9 years, 6 years in middle school, 3 years at the high school. I'm definitely a middle school person by nature. I would say that's where my maturity quit growing, is in middle school, and so I fit really well there. I still find fart jokes hilarious and all that good stuff, so I fit well with middle school kids. And so the biggest change is I loved middle school until I had a middle schooler. and now it's like watching my 12-year-old who is just a brilliant kid, and on all kidding aside, is just a great kid who obviously I love and adore. But there are times when I'm just like, why was it easier dealing with 70 to 100 other 12-year-olds every single day than dealing with this as one? How is this possible? How is having one 12-year-old in my house who, quite frankly, I probably see less than when I was than the kids I saw as a classroom teacher? How is this more difficult, having one in my house and with all the ones? I was a really good middle school teacher. Why am I not a great parent of a middle schooler? So this is like where I find myself like, okay, maybe it's because I've been out of the classroom now for 4 years. It's my 5th year out of the classroom. Bill Faraday would tell me that I've expired. And I expire after 3 years leaving the classroom, according to Bill's very extensive research, which includes just research in his own opinion on the matter. So that's maybe the biggest thing where I was like, and I guess what I've learned is that I can't handle my middle schooler that I have at home in the same way that I handle the middle schoolers that I very successfully taught for those 6 years as a middle school teacher. And so that's been this impact of like how is it different, and how can I find that right thing that helps him navigate. Because that's one thing I love about being a middle school teacher, is navigating those waters of transitioning from elementary to secondary. Particularly being part of teaching 7th grade was my favorite grade to teach. And but now I have a 7th grader, and I'm just like, why did I enjoy teaching 7th graders? So I don't know.
Do you think it's because you can't threaten him with calling his dad?
Yeah. I guess I never could do those. I can't do the I'm gonna call your parents line with my own 12-year-old because.
Hold on, let me call myself.
My wife.
Yeah, I'm gonna call your mom. Yeah. Ruth.
Ruth, get over here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's an impact, right? That's something that I guess I don't know. I think I thought going into middle school, like, oh yeah, I taught middle schoolers. I got this. I know how to handle middle schoolers. I've seen hundreds of them over my teaching career. Nope, never saw one like Micah.
Well, Brent, we really appreciate you taking the time. I know that you're an hour ahead of us. We've got a couple other things that we're going to clean up, and you're welcome to stick around. But we also know you've had a full day, and you've got another one tomorrow. So we'll leave that invitation there. If you'd like to stick around, you're welcome to.
I'll stick around for a little bit longer. I'm now laughing because I appreciate whoever just tweeted out. I just called out Bill Thayer.
I figured Bill would appreciate that, and that we'll see if he responds.
Oh yeah, he will respond. His business will be swift.
All right, first up, Devin. Devin's got the. If you're new to the show, you missed the first 34. Go to dadsanded.podbean.com and listen to them, and we expect you to have that done by next week.
Yes.
Typically, after we get done with the interview, we got a app or site of the week, someone to follow on Twitter, and a coming event or date night, and we have something new at the end of this time. So stick around for that. Devin, you're up first.
Yeah, so I'm going to share. It's not a new app by any means, but there are going to be this fall some great changes to or additions, I shouldn't say changes, additions to Google Classroom that I am just thrilled about. So I'm going to share the additions to Classroom. So things like reusing a post that I've had in another classroom at some point, or posting a question. So not just assignments and announcements, but posting a question kind of as an assignment. I think that's awesome. Google Calendar integration, optional due dates, using Google Forms in a better way, or having them integrate a little better with Classroom. So I saw that post come out from Alice Keeler, who kind of knows all things Google Classroom, and I just thought it was an absolute, maybe the best, in the year that it's been out, which hasn't been that long. Just the, if there were 5 or 6 things that I would say, boy, I sure wish Classroom did this. It seems like Classroom is going to do some of those things. So I'll tweet it out here again, the link to the Dads and Ed hashtag with Alice's post from today. But I love the updates for Classroom that are going to be rolling out in the next few weeks. So that's mine for tonight. And again, not something new, but just such a good update that I felt it was worth sharing.
Yeah, and ironically enough, last week Devin and I were talking about Google Classroom with some of our teachers, and there's about 3 of those on that list that I said, nope, it doesn't do that, it doesn't do that. So now I had to email everyone today. And, oh, by the way, it now does that.
Yeah.
I have the Twitter follow-up for the week. I was kind of searching through looking for someone. I am going to give a shout-out to Mrs. P's Story Time. If you haven't seen this, so everyone talks about, oh, you got to watch Game of Thrones, or you got to watch Community, or you got to watch all this. I am very not hip with social TV, TV in general that's going on right now. Brett, if there's anything like Seinfeld that comes out during this time, I will be with you in not watching it, because I don't hardly watch any sitcoms anymore. The last one that I really set my calendar to was The Office. Huge Office fan. Prior to that, it was the Drew Carey Show. Mrs. P was Mimi on the Drew Carey Show, and now she does a great job of reading books online, and she does some mystery Skyping with people. Not mystery Skyping, does some Skyping with classrooms. Very cool Twitter follower. Very responsive if you mention her. So I will tweet her out from the Dads and Ed account here in just a second. So my Twitter follow for the week.
Very good. So I have the coming event / date night. The guys are giving me a hard time at the beginning of the show. I think just off air as well. It's probably impossible that I had a date night, but I actually did. Thanks to my cousin's wife, who's currently living with us in this home. How many people is that, Lord? I can't add very quickly, but
that's good rent though. I mean, who needs rent money when you can just say, hey, watch the kids?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So that was kind of the deal. Like, hey, you watch kids one night, and you can stay here for a couple weeks, I guess. But no, we're glad to help them out. But anyway, my cousin's wife did offer to watch the kids. So we got to go to a place called Lydia's. We had gone there years ago. My wife and I had come down back when we lived in Omaha. And so it was kind of nostalgic for us to go back there several years later. It was like, do you remember that? Did it look like this? So it was kind of a fun date night for us. It's just off of or behind the Union Station. If you're familiar with Kansas City area, or those that might be in the area, look it up. Lydia's. It's an Italian restaurant. Great place. Really enjoyed our time there together the other night. I also wanted to throw out some coming events, because there's some ed camps. We talked about that as well. Ed Camp Mizzou, formerly known as Jeff City. They're now calling it Mizzou. They've moved it to Columbia, Missouri, to the University of Missouri. And so they're calling it Ed Camp Mizzou now. That's September the 12th. And Springfield, Ed Camp Springfield, is the 19th of September. So I am looking forward to trying to make both of those, if not for sure one of them. So anyway, those are always great to attend Ed Camps.
Nice. All right. One last thing before we sign off. One of the things
Josh, one moment. Brett has a plug he wants to make.
Oh, Brett, knock yourself out. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, so I just thought here also. I put the I'll tweet the link out here in a second. But somebody asked of that. Our church does have a very we're talking about my role in our church. And we have a really cool dynamic app that has sermons, has a blog on it. upcoming events. You can watch services live and then see archive sermons. So if you want to have a chance to check out a different side of me, and I know a few folks out there in the Twitterverse have seen me preach, and so if you want to see, I'm full-on Pentecostal, man, and so whenever we get preaching, it's loud, it's sweaty, and it's a lot of fun, and so it's totally different than necessarily how I present when I'm in front of a group of educators. But it's a really cool app and very well done, and so I just want to give a little plug out there for that. Just what came up in conversation earlier.
Awesome.
Sorry, I accidentally shut my Twitter window, which then moved the chat window, and I totally missed all that. So, Brent, thanks for helping me out there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we kind of talked about doing is doing a quick little district spotlight, kind of some things that are going on in our district, some people that are doing some great things in our district. And let's see, Devin, you get to lead us off.
Okay, so I will share my follow for the week from our district is Rob Lindquist. Rob is a sometimes follower, listener, contributor to the show. And Rob teaches journalism, so he does our one of our high schools, the school newspaper and yearbook, and other journalism classes. And he is he's one of our teacher leaders, so he's a model technology classroom teacher. They call him classroom specialists now at this point in our district. So Rob is a great teacher, great leader in our district, and really happy to have him around. I know that I think at some point in time we will certainly have him on the show. Again, like I said, he's contributed a number of times. So Rob is my kind of district spotlight person from CBCSD.
Nice. I'm gonna put out there one of our teacher librarians, and I do that. We both started the same year. We both started last year. And I know that her husband was tweeting about the show earlier tonight. I'm not sure if he's watching now, but Lynn Kleinmeyer, she is actually the iTech teacher librarian spotlight or something like that for this year's conference. So she's just done phenomenal things. She's working on a makerspace this year. I went in to see her today. She's contracts haven't started for teachers, but she's in there. She's got a whole pile of books she's cleaning out. She said she ran a report, and there were 15 pages of book titles that had not been checked out in 13 years. So she is completely cleaning stuff out and getting things, up and running for year 2. So I will put her Twitter account out there in just a second. Mr. Catlett?
Yes. I'd like to shout out first grade teacher from my district, Lori Williams. She is at Lori W 1088, and she actually taught kindergarten last year. So when I started in the district last year, started to get to know her. She had scored 10 iPads through Donors Choose. Google has a heavy presence in Kansas City with the Google Fiber stuff, and so they right at the beginning of last school year paid for every teacher's Donors Choose in the area. So it was a big deal to the tune of a couple $100,000, and so a lot of our teachers scored. A lot of them had gone after iPads. Well, she was one that got 10 iPads and had a couple others. So I was supporting her in that work. She eventually became a Seesaw ambassador, which is a great app, communication app on an iPad. And then she attended Ed Camp Liberty with me. I talked her into coming to NEDA, and she went to the Google Summit in Kansas City this summer. So she's just really been soaking up kind of anything and everything, and I just appreciate her attitude. I've really appreciated her friendship. Someone that I can kind of bounce ideas off of and get a vibe of the teacher's perspective, and she's just been awesome to get to know in the district, being new. So anyway, I can't say enough good things about Lori. So if she does listen to this at some point, thank you, Lori, for being awesome.
Cool. Brett, not to put you on the spot, but you got one that you want to share?
Yeah, so I will like to highlight a couple of folks, Katie Hutchison and Melissa Stewart. They are two of our e-learning coaches. Katie Hutchison at Book Bandwidth, and Melissa at Gator Fan. There's a number at it on. I'll share it out. Two fantastic e-learning coaches, and just when I was out for a couple months, and they just picked up the ball and ran with it, and our conference would not have been the dynamic conference that it was, where we had over 50 plus presenters from inside of our district. If it wasn't for the work that Katie and Melissa do, and making sure that our conference logistically worked out. I was a recruiter to get a bunch of folks from outside our district there, but then they're the ones that put it all together to make sure it runs smooth. And they're out there in the trenches every single day in our classrooms and our buildings promoting good work. And they're both a great follow on Twitter. And so Katie Hudson and Melissa Stewart are just phenomenal leaders, and I'm blessed to have them on my team.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, put those on Twitter, and we'll be sure and retweet those as well.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, come to the end of the show. Brett, absolutely our pleasure having you here. Glad to hear things are going well at home now, and hopefully you don't offend any more Michigan people. I don't know, Michiganders, is that what they're called? Hopefully that doesn't happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm somewhere over here. If we on the radio, I'm pointing at my hand right now. That's what yeah.
All right, we are back September 8th, which is that the Tuesday of Labor Day?
Yeah.
Is that what we decided on? Okay, so Tuesday of Labor Day, different time. We know you're going to be grilling out, so we didn't want to interrupt that. So we'll switch over to Tuesday, and we will have Dan Butler, Director of Technology, correct?
He's a elementary principal in Iowa.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
This week was Director of Technology. Next time is Elementary Principal. All right.
Yep.
We're still new. It's still early in the year. Not quite got my work legs back.
Not early in the year for me.
Good point.
Yeah.
That's taken. So we will see everyone in 2 weeks.
And thanks for having me on, guys.
Yep.
A lot of fun.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Brett.